Well, good morning, everybody. What a fantastic morning. I am so excited. This is our first live streaming event that's live streaming over our Twitter channels, our YouTube channels, Facebook and LinkedIn. And we have got a very special guest today and a very special session, if I can say that with my teeth in. So I'm Beth Flanagan and I'm Iris's Senior Accountant Market Specialist. And today I've got a very special guest, Gary Ainley. So Gary, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, thanks, Bev. Morning, everyone. I'm Gary Ainley. My company is Expert Collections. We're a commercial debt recovery company. And today we're going to be helping you with sort of the pros and cons of ideal credit control scenarios, what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, and obviously helping anybody with any questions or queries, because we need to make sure that as accountants, the cash is also flowing into your own business and not just into your client's business. So excited for this, Bev. So hopefully we can help a few people today.
100%. So let's get cracking. So first of all, I've known Gary a little while, and apologies if you struggle with my Yorkshire accent. You've got two Yorkshire people on this, but you'll be fine. You'll be fine. We'll talk slow for you all.
You've got subtitles, haven't you? You'll be fine.
Not yet, no. So if you don't know me, I've been at Iris for about 3 months now and loving it, by the way. But prior to that, I've been an accountant forever. So I've been an accountant for more than 25 years. And I've just had my own practice, my own accounting practice for the last 17 years, which I successfully sold in the summer, which I loved. So I know for a fact that all you accountants and bookkeepers watching this, you are absolutely fantastic in helping your clients. You're the trusted advisor. They love you. But sometimes it's difficult to admit, and this is why we're all friends in this community, but sometimes we do let our own internal systems and procedures slip a little because we're that busy, right? So this is what I want to talk to you about today. Myself and Gary want to help you with your own internal systems and get your cash flowing in, and then also helping your clients along the way as well. So Gary, what is a credit control system? What's a good credit control system? And what does that look like for accountants, please?
Yeah, so a good credit control system. I mean, a lot of people will think, well, that's obvious, isn't it? You ring people, they pay you, it's not a problem. But quite clearly, it's not that easy. Everyone's busy. So we're going to sort of go through now sort of what a good credit control system is and what does it consist of. I mean, initially, with sort of my background in commercial debt recovery, as you can imagine, when we get involved, a lot of our clients, accountants included, have probably done all their 10 phone calls or, I'll give you a ring next week, mate. No, I'll do this and I'll do that. But the problem is you never really get to a point where you think, I've had enough of this. I'm not prepared to wait any longer. So a few tips for you is initially, the credit control system is, as we say, telephone and letter. But if you've got a rigid procedure in place, if you use, accounting software, a lot of these software programs now will allow the letters that you're going to send to be sent automatically. So it can be dealt with by, probably any member of staff. It's a case of, do we now get to a situation where we know exactly who owes us the money? Right. So rule number one, they owe you the money, they're past the terms, you now need to sort of send a gentle, polite reminder, which is pretty much along the lines of, your account was due at the end of December, we're now sort of into the 10th of January, can you confirm payment? We then would follow that up with a telephone call. I know a lot of people are a bit like, well, I don't have time for telephone calls. Well, they are fundamental to the issue of you can send a letter, but if it's gone on email, some people might just be like, I'll leave that. They probably find it harder to not deal with a telephone call if you're then speaking to your customers. So make the telephone call. It may well be a genuine oversight on their part. So sort of maybe diarise that forward for sort of 5 working days. So your 5 working days has come and they haven't paid you. You think, what am I going to do now? Because I've got my bills to pay next week. So you sort of now up in the ante a bit. So the next sort of stage would be, a second letter saying, look, we spoke last week. It's still not paid. You did say that this matter was going to be resolved for me. Can you sort this payment out? And obviously give them sort of a further sort of 5 working day deadline. I mean, at this point, they are overdue, but they're not massively overdue. But, 20 grand in one situation is a problem. But a lot of people then think, well, my average accounts are only 500 quid. Yeah, but if you've got 40 of them, it's the same effect. It's still 20 grand in your business. So follow it up with the letter, phone call, and then sort of leave it another 5 days. A lot of people at this point will just basically say, right, well, I know I need to pay this, but really only when the doodah's going to hit the whatnot am I going to sort it out. So by this point, you're probably, let's say, 3 weeks past due date. Not a great amount of time behind it, but at this point now, realistically, your own credit control procedure should well be, this is now my final call regarding this matter. You send a letter that basically says within 14 days, if the matter isn't resolved, you are looking at taking it to third-party action, whatever you use. Obviously, people may go straight to court, but we sort of try and, by utilising the service of, the addition to the existing credit control, would sort of say, right, well, we've given them a deadline. We're going to stick to that deadline. And then if not, we're going to look at taking it further. But it's obviously important that if you don't have that system in place, the weeks will fly by. I mean, we're end of January already nearly. And it's like, how the hell's that happened? But the problem is you're busy because accountants, I know at the moment, this is your, shall we say, rather busy time of the year. And I know that there's not many of you with your feet up going, I'll just have a coffee now because we've already finished. Because I imagine that come Monday morning, there'll be a lot of your clients going, I need to do all my year-end tax return, this, that, and the other. And obviously, that's busy. It's outside of what you would normally think is acceptable, but you do it because of your customers. So this part of it is very important in your business, because if you haven't got it, 2 months pass and you go, have we rung him? Have we rung her? No, we haven't. And then, you're too far down the line already.
Exactly that. And I think sometimes, us accountants were a bit too friendly, if that's the right thing to say. But it's just because we're so nice, to be honest. But like you just said, it could be a couple of debts that somebody owes us a couple of £100 and we think, oh, they'll pay him. I know him. They're my friend. I've known him ages. They've been my client for ages. But more often than not, 9 times out of 10, you'll have already done the work. So you're already out of pocket. You've already spent the time and the effort to do the accounts, do that catch-up bookkeeping work because they came to you and they were a bit behind. You've already paid your staff to do the work as well. You've already paid your subscriptions to the software to be able to do the work. So why should you be out of pocket? Do you know what I mean? He's not your mate, like you said, Gary, before. There's no friends in business. I'm not saying be horrible to him, but this is why we're talking about this and having a good rigid credit control system and procedure and sticking to it. So you've spoke about what happens afterwards a little bit, and we'll go into it in a bit more detail later. But what about right up front, like you said? So getting those terms and conditions straight. So us accountants, Gary, what we do is when we start work with a client, we'll send what's called a proposal and a letter of engagement. The proposal shows all the pricing and everything that we're going to do for that client, and the letter of engagement sort of goes hand in hand with that, and that's all our terms and conditions, as in you're responsible as a business owner for any HMRC penalties. This is how we need to receive the information from you, but also in there we need the terms and conditions for our payments. I used to, in my practice, used to do monthly direct debits. So I never had anybody that owed me money, luckily, because I've got my systems and procedures in place, because I've got a mate called Gary Ailey who helped me to do this a long time ago. So cheers, Gary. So I was in a fortunate situation, but I know many accountants have not had the time or don't know where to start in this. So this is why we want to help them. So in that letter of engagement that us accountants originally send to our clients when we first start working with them, what can we put in there as key terms and conditions that then we have to stick to?
Well, I'd say you're quite right that the problem is a lot of people we speak to, there'll be a £10,000 debt outstanding. They go, well, it's a friend of mine. Well, as you've said, friends and business don't often mix. I mean, none of my mates owe me 10 grand and I play poker once a month. So quite clearly, people need to understand that, if you've done a job and you provided a service, you should be paid for it. And the problem is with accountancy work, it's not like you can undo what you've done because you've already done the work, you've provided them with the accounts. So, rigid terms and conditions, your letter of engagement, what you expect. I would probably say as well, without any shadow of a doubt, that you would need to get regular monthly payments. I mean, nobody wants a an accountant's bill of £3,500 in January
Exactly.
or December. So like, well, I haven't got money for this. But 200 or 300 quid a month is a lot more easier to swallow. But the problem is with that, if you have that direct debit set in place and they're happy with that, that's perfectly fine, whatever they're paying. But what if halfway through the year, you've done all their accounts, so effectively you've done the work, but they're on a direct debit, and you're probably still £2,000 behind where you are with the work that you've done, but on your direct debit, you've obviously got the balance to pay by the end of the year. The minute they don't start making that payment, you must have in your terms and conditions that if we don't get payment within, I'd say 14 days of, that monthly installment being paid, you reserve the right to, not do any more work because, why should you? But secondly, refer to that and say, look, we are going to use the services of a third-party agency, whoever that be. Hopefully, I'm here to help, but I say to people, look, I hope you don't need to ring me, but if you do, I'm here to help, because half of the time, nobody knows really where to turn with it, and it becomes, oh, it'd be right, it's 200 quid, he'll pay me double next month. Well, if I haven't paid you 200 quid, he's either going to pay you 400 quid next month to bring it back up to date. And then, 2 or 3 months drag along and you're at 600, 700, 800 quid. So it's very important that in your terms, you put that you are going to take this action, because, it's only right. It's your business. Why should you work for free?
Exactly. And I think it's a bit different as well. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, I'm in a room on my own and it's got those automatic lights. So if it's gone dark, it's because the lights have gone off, and you don't want me to stand up to do star jumps to turn the lights back on. So hopefully it's okay. But yeah, because we don't sell products, we don't sell tables and chairs, something that you can physically touch. I think sometimes people take mickey a little bit as well, because they can't see the work we've done. They can't see the effort that we've already put in and the hours that we've put in to do it. So I think sometimes that does give people the opportunity to take the mickey, to be honest. But like you said, the terms and conditions, so I had them in mind. Like, to work with me in my practice, you had to pay by direct debit, and you had to sign that direct debit mandate before I even started any work with you, because that was my terms and conditions. If you didn't want to pay by direct debit, then you'd have to go and find another accountant. I know that seems a bit hard, but it isn't, because it's my business, my rules, and they were my rules, and I want to be paid by monthly direct debit. I don't want to do all the work for the full year and then you pay me, because there's a possibility, like Gary said, that you're not going to pay me. Also, us accountants, we can, like I mentioned earlier, apart from the normal work that we do, although it's not work normal, it's absolutely magic and brilliant what we do. But we can very often get clients that are very behind for whatever reason. They've never had an accountant before, they've had one that's not particularly brilliant, but we've got quite a lot of work to catch up on. And I've had this in the past as well, where I've had to do a VAT return that was 5 years long, a VAT return. Yeah, that's another story for another day. But as you can imagine, that was quite a chunky accountancy bill for me to do, because it was a lot of work. There's no way I would have started that without getting any money up front first. So even in that situation, I offered a tiny little bit of a discount if he wanted to pay all in one go, or he could pay it in 2 installments. And he paid it all in one go because he saw the value of what we did, and he didn't want a big bill at the end, and a bill that he didn't understand or didn't expect to have how much it is. He knew exactly up front of what it were, and he paid it straight away. But in them scenarios, even if the client doesn't want to pay 100% up front, I would even take 50% up front and then do the work up to that point that you've been paid for, and then get the money in for the remainder of the amount, like sort of stage payments. Because, yeah, like Gary says, you're a business owner. Just because you don't sell physical products doesn't mean that, you've not spent that time and effort on that client to get their books right up to date, to eliminate HMRC penalties, to give them peace of mind. This is the thing that people don't realize about how much value we add. So therefore, yeah, we don't want to be taking the mickey out of. We want to get paid as well. We're business owners too. So like Gary said, your terms and conditions, make sure that they're in your initial letter of engagement right up front before you even start doing any work at all. And then you need to stick to it. So if you do give them 14 days, like Gary said, make sure you stick to it. And if you don't, I think you're just setting yourself up for, for trouble, aren't you, Gary, really? Because then if you let that slip, if you say, right, listen, I'm really sorry, I know, I don't know what you're going through right now, but our bill, the direct debit bounced for whatever reason, obviously in our terms and conditions that you signed at the beginning of our relationship, it said that we needed to be paid within 14 days. That 14 days is up next Friday. So please make sure that you settle it by then. If you then leave it and then the following Monday, you're like a bit scared to contact them, or you're texting them or whatever, like saying, oh, you didn't pay me by Friday. Can you please make sure it's by this Friday? That's showing to them that you're a little bit weak and that you don't mean it. You don't mean that you want to stick to your terms and conditions, right, Gary? And I mean, I'm sure you've seen this loads of times with your clients. And then that 14 days can linger up to, I don't know, 6 months, maybe never paid.
Definitely. That's the issue, because as you said, you know these people, you work quite closely with them. They almost become,
Friends.
as we said earlier on, a bit friends in business. And it's like, oh, it'll be right. It's this, it's that, it's the other. But if you don't take that action, they don't take you seriously. And then it's like, but when they ring you at, 5 to 5 on 30th of January going, I need this doing. And you go, well, yeah, I'll do it for you. I'll do it, because it's like you want to do the right thing. But then, end of February, they haven't paid you. Who's the mug?
Yeah.
You've done all the work and they've still gone, oh, thanks for that, but, I'll pay you whenever. No, you'll pay me as per the terms. So you need to make sure that if you give somebody a deadline, for God's sake, stick to it, because if not, guaranteed, you'll be ringing me 3 months down the line, sending me a copy of an email that says, Gary, they were going to pay me at end of January. And I'm like, well, why are we now talking in April then?
Exactly.
The longer you leave it, they're paying people that are chasing them.
The more they'll think you don't care, and your terms and conditions don't mean anything, do they then? Because they think, well, she's not bothered. Oh, and by the way, if you, like you just said, oh, I'll just ring Bev. I owe her some money, but I need her just to do something. It'll only take her 2 minutes. She'll do it. And then, if I did it, I'm just adding to that pressure for myself and just showing that I'm really not bothered about my own business and my own terms and conditions and getting my own money in. But I suppose that's a mindset thing as well, don't you think, Gary, about it does go a bit deeper, doesn't it, about a mindset, like you said, about being a little bit afraid, because I think ultimately we're sometimes a bit apprehensive, a bit scared to ask for money if somebody owes it to us, because, oh, they're going to leave us. Well, who cares if they leave you anyway and they haven't paid you and you've done the work? So it's not blind anyway.
A lot of times, people will say to me, well, I don't really want to chase him because he's my best customer.
Yeah.
He owes me 20 grand. Well, let me tell you this. Your best customer is a guy that owes you £1,000 and he pays you on the date. You never have to ring him. You never have to chase him. He confirms every single thing with you as per your terms.
Yeah.
And he spends £1,000 a year with you. He's your best customer, not the guy who you spend all year, all month chasing. I've got your stuff for payroll. I've got this and I've got your accounts. And it's you running after him or her and saying, you haven't done this. And you owe you 20 grand. They're not your best customer.
No,
and
exactly.
That penny drops. You realise, well, why don't I just deal with 20 more people that I don't need to, spend loads of time on? Because at the end of the day, we're in business to make money, and you want profitable business. It's like with me. If I'm ringing, money that's outstanding for a client, then the same kind of action is required. We pick up the phone, we speak to somebody. If I'm chasing 50 quid or 50 grand, I know what's more profitable for my business.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to ask, thanks so much. We've got quite a few people watching. And if you've got any questions while we've got Gary, who's a total expert, as in his business name, Expert Collections, then please feel free to pop in the comments, excuse me, in the chat, and we can pick it up and answer it live while we've got Gary on. So hopefully people are going to get the credit control procedure set up. They're going to get everybody paying them electronically, like by direct debit. We're going to have some terms and conditions. We're going to stick to them. We're going to make sure that people pay us, because we are a business after all. We're not a charity. Like we said, we need that money coming in, just like clients need the money coming in. What happens? At what point would you say, I mean, I know it's immediate after the 14 days, for example, that it's overdue, that you need to take action. But at what point would you think somebody would think, right, this is getting a bit ridiculous now? Do they need to sort of contact you, a company like yours, or sort of like really step on it because it's taking the mickey, really?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I would probably say on average that, I understand that people's terms might be 14 days. People will always try and drag them out to 30 days by the nature of just how business is nowadays. But if you're getting accounts that are getting to 60 days overdue, then you need to really be thinking,
There's a
at what
problem.
point is this going to start, if it hasn't already started to cause a problem in your business? Because at that point, you potentially are looking in your bank and going, hang on, I've only got 50 grand and I've got 100 grand of the bills coming up, but I'm owed 200 grand. And at the end of the day, if you start taking action, and I would say, 60 days, no more than 75 days, you then got a better chance of getting paid because they will pay you. And quite often when we get involved with things, our clients will go, I can't believe that they paid me 25 grand in 2 days. I'm like, yeah, well, half the problem is you've said you were going to do it and you did it. I said, all those times you didn't, they think, oh, it'd be right. Bev will ring me again on Monday and I'll fob her off, or you know, payment, it's in the banking system. That's the new check in the post. It's stuck in the banking system. No, it ain't. You've either pressed the button to make the payment or you haven't. But once they see that you've taken it further, they've nowhere to go because you've then said what you're going to do and you've done it. So it's very important that, going back to that deadline scenario, don't be afraid to ask for your money.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Definitely. And is there any, I'm going to ask you some questions. I've not even asked you this beforehand, so you probably need to think about it for a minute. But I'm just curious about some scenarios that you've chased in the past for people. So just in case we've not mentioned this before, so what Gary's company does is, if you get to that point where you're literally banging your head against the wall, you've done everything you can do, Gary's company can take over and chase that debt for you. And more often than not, it's free, which I'll let Gary explain in a minute. But what's the smallest debt that you've chased, and what's the biggest debt that you've chased? That's one question. Well, that's two really. And the other one is, what is the most bizarre thing that you've had to chase for, what the invoice was for?
All right. Okay. Right. So the smallest one of our telecommunications clients, a guy had not paid his last bill, which was 18 quid.
Right. Okay.
Commercial bill. He hadn't paid his last bill. So obviously I'll explain how we operate a bit further on. So that was one payment. And by the time he'd also paid the late payment charges that were applicable, he obviously ended up paying 70 quid. He only owed 18 quid. So clearly you can imagine we're a bit upset about that. But obviously that's the way it works.
You should have paid the 18 quid.
Exactly. He said, why has it come to that? I remember the phone call. He went, why has it come to this? I went, you tell me it's 18 quid. But I now owe 70 quid. That's right. Government legislation. Oh, so huffed and puffed and paid it. On the other side of the coin, 1.2 million is the biggest one. That was a big construction debt that was probably ongoing for about 3 to 6 months. Wow. And the benefit of all of that was it cost the client absolutely nothing to recover that money. Wow. Again, by utilising the government legislation, they were able to get that money back into their business and obviously maintain their business going forward. But
that's interesting to hear then. So basically, no debt is too tiny. Like whatever you've done the work for needs to be paid, even if it's 18 quid. Definitely.
Yeah. Some of our clients, some of our publishing clients, they might have 200, 300, 400 quid adverts. But some of our crane hire clients, if you've got a 220 ton crane on a site for a month, that's like 30, 40 grand.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've still done the work, and it's not like, using the crane hire as an example. Crane, what do you mean? Well, you don't miss a 220 ton crane in a yard somewhere, do you? Because they're quite a large piece of kit. So you tend to find that, those kind of bizarre statements at either side of the why has it come to this for the smaller stuff, and on the big stuff, they do start panicking. But it's there, it's owed, and you should get your money.
Yeah.
And the most bizarre one, you said?
Yes.
Quite a funny one. This was, believe it or not, and it's all obviously correct. So there's no animals were harmed in the making of this product.
Oh, I don't know where
beer for dogs.
A what? Beer for dogs?
For dogs, and wine for dogs. We had a client that provided dog-friendly Prosecco and beer.
Oh my God, that's so cute. Did you just say Prosecco?
Prosecco, they called it.
I've got to get that for my two dogs.
Because basically, we got the information through, and I read it. I said to my colleague, Rich, I went, have I read this right? He says, what do you mean? I says, this is beer for dogs. He went, No, it won't be. And I went, well, you have a read of it. Yeah. So we were chasing sort of people that were supplying, you know, you and I in the street. We both got dogs. So yeah, you know, Prosecco.
Did they pay up?
Yeah, because they've nowhere to go, have they? It's like it's a have you sold the goods? They're not on sale or return. You need to pay for it.
Do you think that it's more difficult for you as a debt recovery agency to collect outstanding monies for companies such as for industries such as accountants, that we provide a service rather than a product, or does it not matter as long as you've got a robust credit control system?
It shouldn't really matter either way, but you know, for example, using the crane hire as an example, if you've got a crane on site and they're not paying you, and it's still got 8 weeks left, they say, right, well, the crane's coming off site.
Yeah.
But it can be different. But the whole point about supply and payment is, as we've said, like, you know, publications, accountants, if you provide a service that can't be undone, so, you know, a printer, an accountant comes to you, I've got all this printing done, promoting my business, they don't pay the printer can hardly come back and say, right, I'll take all that, Bev, because I can use all that stuff that's got Iris over it, and I'll put an S on the end and I'll send it overseas and we'll deal with it in Ireland. It's like, it's only relevant to that business.
Yeah.
There's no point taking it back because you can't use it anywhere else. Bespoke, you know, anything that's bespoke, you know, like workwear or whatever, it's no good for anyone else. So you need to make sure that if you're in that arena of potentially having this issue, you've got to be more robust than normal, but not, you know, you don't need to, sledgehammer to crack a nut, but people need to be aware that your services are good. That's why they come to you and you should be paid.
Exactly. Yeah, like you just said in them examples, for our example, it could be that, like I said before, we've took a client on that's really, really behind. I could have spent like last 2 weeks getting his bookkeeping right up to date because he's really behind with his VAT returns. Like, no one's going to undo that because that's just my expertise and my time. You can't come and pick that up and take it back, like you said. So everything comes down to having this robust credit control internal system in your firm, that you've got these T&Cs and that you do absolutely stick to them. So this is amazing, Gary. Thanks so much. But so that's massive tips for us as accounting firms. But how can we help our clients? So one thing, what we are and what we're trying to do as accountants is become a trusted advisor to our clients, so that they come to us because they trust us. They know our experience, they know our value, and they want us to help them with their business. Obviously, we help them with the business finances, but this is another area that we can add to our string of trusted advisor status, if you like, to our clients. So what could we do to help them? Is it exactly the same? Replicate like the good terms and procedures and systems, get them in touch with a company like you? What can we do to help our clients so that they love it more?
Pretty much so, quite similar, because, you know, you're the accountant, they're not paying your bill, you ring them up and they go, oh, well, you know, blah, 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 and I've got this, and you're doing the books, and you see that they've got like loads of money outstanding.
Yeah.
And the reason why they've a load of money outstanding is the reason why they can't pay you. But they're then going, either I'm not comfortable with ringing people, you know, it's me mate, it's this, it's my best customer. So the scenario is that as the accountant, if they're coming to you and saying, look, I'm having difficulties paying your bill because my cash isn't coming in, then, you know, using any sort of trusted provider, you know, service provider, we can help, you know, the accountant's customer and say, look, you know, have you got problems? Does it need resolving? And again, some accountants might want to do the phone calls. Some of them won't. Some of them are too busy. And then you've got to have something in the background that you can say to your customer, look, you know, we work alongside this company. They're good at what they do. You know, give them a call, and then we can sort of replicate for them what we would do for the accountant using the same sort of scenario of, you know, our telephone and letter service. Because at the end of the day, if that money comes into their business, if they're owed 30,000 quid and your bill's £2,000, they say, I've got me 30 grand in now, Bev, here's your 2 grand. It's a win-win for everybody.
Exactly. And we as an accountant bookkeepers are in a very good situation to be able to help our clients, no matter what industry they're in, no matter how big or small they are, because we've got access to their debtor ledger. So we can check that the bank's up to date and it's all reconciled. We can check that they've done all the sales invoicing. Therefore, we can check that their debtor ledger and not everything that's outstanding to them. We can see what it is. We can see how old it is. We can see the most stubborn ones. We can see the ones that are on direct debit, for example. So yeah, that's where we can then add even more value, like I said, and become even more of a trusted advisor to our clients. So, and like you said, that could be a big, massive vicious circle, really. We help them at the same time so that they get paid, so then they can pay us, because it might not be, I mean, so far in the scenarios we've said, we've sort of acted as if people are just idiots, aren't they? And they're just delaying payment. But it might be, in the day and age that we're in, and this sort of economic crisis that we're in, that people are actually struggling and they're not taking the mickey. They really want to pay, but they are struggling themselves. So, you know, for us to be able to help businesses like that, to turn their books around and to help them to be able to offer that advice or pass them on to a company like yourselves to get their books up to date, as in the money flowing back in, it helps us as well. So it's a win-win situation. So what typically happens then? I mean, I know, because I've used your services before, and we're not here to try and sell Gary services. We're here genuinely to help people to get the money flowing in, which is what this is all about. We're all in business, which means the money needs to come in so we can pay people, and more importantly, pay ourselves as well as business owners. But I've used Gary services before. When I was an accountant, I niched in trades and construction, which notoriously, probably Gary will agree, is the worst industry to stick to terms and conditions and get that payment flow in, because their terms and conditions, in a lot of the times, Gary, is 60 to 90 days, which is mental. But that's just what happens, isn't it? Yeah, right. So like I said, I've used you loads of times before in the past, and got even clients where they've said, and I'm trying to think back, I'm sure it was 2 years, and like, Bev, I'm not going to get that in. I've tried to get it myself. I'm like, well, it's worth a try, isn't it? Before we write it off in your books as a bad debt, let's just try. You've done it yourself. I've tried to do it for you. They just think that, you know, I'm an extension of your company, so they're just going to carry on taking the mickey of it. Pass it over to a company like yours. What happens then, Gary?
Well, basically, what happens at that point is we would obviously write to your customer saying, we've now been asked to deal with the debt. And obviously, sort of, if I can sort of explain a bit about how we operate and how we're, you know, very different than sort of your standard, you know, commercial debt recovery business, who probably might charge you up to 15 or 20%, which if you're owed 30,000 quid, you're not likely to pass it when it's going to cost you 1,500 quid to get your own money back. Why should that be? Yeah. So we would deal with it on the basis of, we would take the debt instruction. So let's say it's 1,000 quid. We'd obviously apply late payment legislation as per the Late Payment of Commercial Debts Interest Act, which allows businesses to charge interest, compensation fee, and collection fees to the debt. So we apply that to the debt depending on how overdue it is. So let's say that's 100 quid for argument's sake. We write to the debtor company then saying, you owe our client 1,000 quid. You've also incurred the late payment charges, which are 100 quid. Total now to pay 1,100 quid. Very often when we get instructed, they'll ring up straight away and go, I just want to sort this, because it's the thought of, oh hell, a debt collecting company. They think lock, stock and two smoking barrels, Vinnie Jones, baseball bats, guns. It isn't like that. It's all regulated, but it's that thought in the head of, oh, hang on, Bev's actually said what she's going to do. Exactly. Now it's costing me more money. So the benefit to you and your customers, you know, as accountant clients, etc., is that you get all your 1,000 quid back, and we keep the late payment charges our fee. So there's no sort of consideration of, you know, I'm owed 30 grand. It's going to cost me 3 grand to get my money back. So I'm only going at 27. She's promised to pay me on Friday. I'll wait till Friday. Don't delay, because you've got the option of zero cost commercial debt recovery.
Yeah, and that's brilliant. And I know, like I said, it's worked for my clients in the past as well. I mean, ultimately, no offense, Gary, people don't want to use you because they need to be getting paid on time every time. But obviously, there's that option there, isn't there? And I want this to be more for accountants, clients that have not got their credit control systems. I want every accountant that's watching this, I want them to have an absolutely fantastic credit control system, and they're never having to chase because they've got it coming in, you know, fluidly every month or whatever. But no, that's absolutely brilliant. So that scenario and that example you gave earlier, then that bill that were 18 quid that turned out to be 70, that's because it was so late that the difference between the 17 and the 18 was the interest.
Yeah, the interest and the compensation fee set by the legislation. So you're looking at, even the smaller debts probably will attract sort of 50, 55 quid in fees. So, sort of the sweet spot, well, I say sweet spot, but I mean, anything between sort of £1,000 and £5,000 are probably the people that can pay and think you're not going to do anything about it.
And I suppose that it does make the accountant or the business owner that's, we're talking about accountants in this live, but whoever is owed the money to, I suppose it makes them look a bit more credible as well, that you are strong, you are a talented business owner and professional, and that you are sticking to your terms. Like, look, listen, I said that if you get me in 14 days, I'm going to do this. And also, this is another question. What do you find that if people pass debts over to you, do you think that spoils a relationship then between, say, an accountant and their client if they passed it over to a company like yours? Or does it cement it a little bit?
No, you can cement it. I mean, nobody ever wants to, we get asked this many, many times about, well, if you get involved, you ruin the relationship. No, we won't. We're there as an extension of your credit control. You've done what you said you were going to do. We're now here to say, look, if there's a problem, I'd rather you tell me now before it has to go any further, because nobody wants to issue legal proceedings and everything else that goes with that. A lot of the time, the people that owe the money know that they owe the money and might come on and say, look, I've been waiting for this. I know it's coming. Can we sort it? And it's not about ruining the relationship. It's about saying, look, they've done the work. Yeah, they have. There's no problem with it. No, I'm really happy with what's been done. Right, well then, obviously, you must understand that as a business, they need paying.
That's it.
If you use the old go to a supermarket on Friday and say, well, I know it's 27th on Friday, but I get paid on first at month. I'll be back to pay bill on first at month. Are you getting out with your trolley?
Yeah, that's not going to happen, is it?
It's no different. Once you've done it, you should pay for it. And obviously, by doing and taking the action, you don't ruin the relationship. They might think twice about not paying you on time before. They might even ring you and say, look, I'm really sorry. I was in a hole. I've sorted it out now. Can I still work with you?
I might try that on Friday, Gary, at my local takeaway. Can I have my kebab, but I'll pay you next week? I'm sure I'll get thrown out, though.
Yeah, exactly. I try it with Aston Martin every week, but they're not happy for 20 quid a week cash on a 280 grand car, but I'll keep trying.
Well, like you said, I do think it will prove you to be more credible, like you said, because you're not going to go in all guns blazing, borrowing my Rottweilers, go in there, banging on the door. It's a professional service, and that's, like you said, it's an extension of our business, and hopefully it won't need to get to that. But listen, I think this has been an absolute brilliant first live for Iris, and thanks so much, Gary, for coming on.
You're welcome.
I just think that this is such a fantastic subject that is forgotten about sometimes because of a bit of everything. Like we said, we're too busy to do our own terms and conditions. Time just goes by so quickly. We're a bit scared and a bit nervous as mindsets there. It's me mate, it's my cousin, it's my mum's best mate. Like, I can't chase them for money. So now we know what we need to do right from the beginning. Now we know that we need to have terms and conditions. We know that we need to stick to them 100% and be that professional business owner and keep your money flowing in, because you are a business owner at the end of the day. Like we said, not a charity. We now know what we can do to help our own clients as well with their own credit control, which in turn, like we said, is a big circle, because if their credit control is working spot on and their money's coming in, that means we're going to get paid as well. And it looks like we are more of a trusted advisor. And if the bleep hits the fan and either us as accountants or bookkeepers or our clients are owed money, old or stubborn debts, we now know what to do. And in most circumstances, it's not going to cost us money. Win-win situation. So accountants, what I'd advise you to do once 31st of January is out of the way, because we know you're going to be busy till then, take a look at your own systems, have a look at your own letter of engagement, have a look at your own terms and conditions. And if it's not up to scratch, make it up to scratch. That is so important, like we've said on this live. So Gary, how can people contact you, please?
Through the website, which is www.expertcollections.co.uk. And on there, you'll find there's a downloadable free ebook, which will sort of go over what we spoke about today. My contact details, the office number, 01274 866 820, or on email is gary@expertcollections.co.uk. So hopefully you don't need me, but as I say, if anyone does need any help, advice, or I'll just give him a ring and see if he can answer me this question. More than happy to do it. And again, thanks for the opportunity to put it out there to people that, you know, not all debt collectors are like Vinnie Jones, and we are here to help get the money back in your business, which is where it should be.
Exactly. Well, thanks so much, everybody, for watching. And thank you so much again, Garrett, for coming on this first live stream. We hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. See you soon. Bye.
See you later.